Hello, Recapped Mystery here. Today, I'm going to explain the German satirical comedy film, Look Who's Back. Watch out and take care. The opening of the film takes place in Berlin during World War II. Hitler is working with a behavior coach named Kell. Hitler expresses his displeasure at the manner of people greeting Kell. He laments that, while the Nazi salute is out of style, individuals should at least lift their hands to their wrists to show respect. Then he tells how he has done everything a human can to undermine the foundations of the enemy who has desecrated their soil. He finds Germany's existence puzzling, and his presence here unsettling. He wakes up on the ground someplace in a forest in the following scene. Looking up at the sky, he notices that the enemy planes have vanished and speculates that they may have taken a rest. A ball suddenly comes bouncing towards him and stops just at his side. He stands up and walks past the bush towards a structure. He is then approached by three small children who inquire as to his well-being. Hitler looks at them and believes they are the nation's future. He then asks them how to get to the street. At the same time, a reporter, Fabian Sawatsky, is photographing the kids with his camera. Hitler can be seen on the far right side of the screen. He takes up his army headgear and thinks to himself, I should go to the Führer bunker. When Hitler walks down the street, he is astounded to see people riding monowheel bikes. He discovers people photographing him and laments that even though the rubble has been removed, people have gone insane. Then he feels a modern automobile in his fingers and wonders if he went into a coma and missed the win. He understands he is not fully aware of his circumstance and alerts himself to gather further information. Then he asks a man where the chancellery is, but the man instead requests for a picture. As people approach him and take photos in turn, he is startled by the flashes of the cameras. Confounded by the strange happenings taking place around him, he determines that something has gone wrong in the location. As Hitler walks away, he notices a woman on her phone chatting in German. He approaches her and inquires about the current date, but she becomes afraid and sprays his eyes. Hitler sobs in agony as his eyes turn crimson and his eyesight blurs. He slips and walks to a nearby newspaper shop. When he sees the date October 3, 2014 written on the paper, he collapses to the ground. Kerner, the leader of a TV station, compliments Mr. Christoph Sensenbrink for doing a good job as the deputy's head somewhere else. He provides a better alternative but instead names another employee, Ms. Katja Bellini, as the managing director. Christoph is astonished and unsatisfied as a result of this. He comes into his office and pours his rage on Fabian, a struggling filmmaker. Despite his best efforts to persuade his employer, Fabian is sacked and thrown away by the guards. Some minutes later, Hitler awakens at the newsstand and inquires about the date with the proprietor. He affirms that the year is indeed 2014. A perplexed Hitler wonders if the shopkeeper has kidnapped him and fears that everything is a ruse by the enemy's secret service. He threatens to kill the shopkeeper if he works with the enemy, but the shopkeeper instead gives him a bar of chocolate. After much fight, Hitler unlocks it and sniffs it. He proclaims it to be industrially pressed grain and asks the shopkeeper if there is still a bread scarcity. The shopkeeper, mistaking Hitler for an actor, asks whether they are filming a documentary anywhere nearby. The shopkeeper then remarks that he resembles the Führer, to which Hitler responds that he is the Führer. Following that, Hitler notices a Turkish newspaper and inquires whether the store carries Sturmer or Panzerbar. According to the merchant, he has more Turkish clientele. Hitler is taken aback by the presence of Turks in Berlin. He then begins gathering information from the newspaper. While reading it, he assumes that he did not win the war previously and that Germany was left in the hands of clumsy ladies with the charisma of a wet noodle. He also bemoans the existence of Poland and declares the war a terrible failure. Meanwhile, Fabian sobs as he watches his football video reporting and laments his dismissal. His mother comforts him and urges him to pause the film. Recognizing Hitler in the background, Fabian is amused by the finding of a person who resembles Hitler. Back in the shop, the proprietor requests that Hitler set aside the newspaper and stand outside. Hitler resents being forced to work. The merchant advises Hitler to clean his smelly garments. He then goes to a laundrette and requests that his uniform be cleaned. Hitler inquires whether they have another uniform because he cannot leave nude. Next, we see Hitler wearing trousers and a sweater as he walks to the newsstand. Fabian, on the other hand, has tracked him down and is waiting for him in the shop. When he first sees Hitler, he is taken aback by his appearance. Fabian approaches Hitler and asks if he can film him as he marches through modern Germany. Hitler agrees with the concept. Fabian borrows money and a car from his mother and sets out on his voyage with Hitler. The two wind up in a motel, where Hitler is entertained by the television. He then decides to discuss politics during Fabian's lecture. He travels about asking individuals about their political opinions. Following the interviews, he concludes that democracy had little impact on people during his absence. He examines people's discontent and concealed wrath, which reminds him of the 1930s, when people had comparable feelings but lacked the term political disenchantment. People inform Hitler about the country's immigrant problem, prompting Hitler to promote his theory that mixing races does not work. Later, Fabian questions Hitler about the origins of his distinctive mustache. Hitler responds that he shaped his mustache to match a gas mask. After a while, the two end up on a farm, where Hitler is bitten by a dog. He becomes upset and fires at the animal. Fabian scolds him and takes the rifle from him. Fabian finally runs out of money as the tour progresses, but he devises a strategy and persuades passers-by to have their sketches made by Hitler. Hitler creates snarky drawings that people find amusing and pay for. They resume their journey once they have enough money. Back in town, Fabian shows Christoph a video of Hitler. The video had a lot of views because Fabian posted it on the internet. The enormous amount of views in the video impresses Christoph. He requests Hitler's name and phone number from Fabian. After meeting him, Christoph feels Hitler is insane and requests that Fabian remove him from the office. Before departing, Hitler approaches the director's office and asks her to help him preserve Germany. Bellini, intrigued by the concept, inquires about the proposal. She instantly requests that her aide develop a proper TV format for transmitting the Führer on Hitler's concept. Fabian then threatens Christoph with eviction if he does not return his work. Hitler must go. When Christoph learns of this, he hires him as a kitchen boy and promises to advance him when a new editing position becomes available. Hitler is later assigned a table in the TV studio. Christoph requests that Krumir assist Hitler with computer use. Hitler recalls his days with computers and considers the technology to be one of the finest. Krumir seeks to sign Hitler up for mail but discovers that his name has already been taken. Hitler grumbles about people copying his name and encourages her to use New Reichschancellery because he likes it. Christoph intends to put Hitler on stage in a live comedy event called Whoa Dude. He is still irritated because Bellini was promoted instead of him and aims to cause trouble for her. He intends to introduce racism into the discourse by making caustic remarks about Jews and to dismiss Hitler. The show begins, and the host, Witzigmann, summons Hitler to the stage. The audience gossips about Hitler's appearance, but when Hitler looks at them, the hall becomes silent. Hitler quickly breaks the stillness, but does not read the lines as written. He explains that he was supposed to crack a joke on immigrants but will not do so. He claims that television is a magnificent human innovation, but the programs that are presented are nonsense. He throws light on issues such as poverty and unemployment, and predicts that the country's people are heading towards the abyss without realizing it. Hitler swears to fight the TV not only until the transmission of the abyss, but also until he succeeds in defeating them. Everyone applauds him for his brilliant idea. The host, Witzigmann, is envious of Hitler's popularity. Bellini requests that Christoph broadcast Hitler on every episode. Christoph is upset since his idea did not work out. In the following scene, we see Hitler doing interviews on various TV stations and expressing his desire to restore Germany's greatness. His popularity skyrockets, and he meets with several people and party officials. He begins to enchant them all by expressing his views. Hitler and Fabian pay a visit to the NPD headquarters in Berlin one day. He summons Ulf Bern, the federal chairman of the NPD, and inquires about the progress of his cause. Hitler dismisses him and claims that they have squandered enough time, and the movement remained stunned for decades as a result of their statements. When the cops and the district attorney, D.A., arrive at the TV studio, Christoph is overjoyed. They explain that they have come to file a charge of violating hate laws. Bellini then asks what they should do. Christoph quickly suggests that they may need to cancel the event, the Führer show, The DA claims that they can continue transmitting. Bellini breathes a sigh of relief as Christoph fakes a smile. After the DA departs, Krumir gives Christoph a note confirming the money for the dog that Hitler shot earlier in his trip. Christoph cheerfully accepts the letter, assuming it to be a means of causing trouble. Following that, Hitler is subjected to a television interview in which he is asked direct questions regarding his various roles in the war. Hitler says that he wants to help people, but the reporter warns him that all of his actions cannot be justified. He shows him the video of himself shooting the dog. The crowd is disturbed by the footage. Hitler is enraged and threatens him with doing the same to him. He goes on to claim that he plans to turn their studio into a tank parking lot. Christoph feels better when he sees people's unfavorable reactions. Bellini is sacked following the horrible interview, and Christoph is appointed as the new manager. Hitler then travels to Fabian's house and begins living with him. He expresses amusement at Destiny's route and begins writing his second novel. The book will soon be available for purchase. 3 months later, everyone gathers at the TV studio for a meeting to address the tremendous loss that the company has suffered. Christoph feels Witzigmann's presentation will get them back on track, but one of his employees notifies him that he has resigned. Christoph becomes agitated and angry at the chosen employees for losing the show. Christoph is intrigued when one of the staff members suggests bringing Hitler back. He seeks for Hitler again and offers Fabian $1 million to invest in the film that Fabian and Hitler are making in exchange for allowing them to broadcast the film on their television. Hitler and Fabian arrive at Krumir's house, and Krumir's grandma recognizes Hitler. She alleges that Hitler gassed and killed all of the people. She brands him a criminal and orders him to leave. In the car, Hitler expresses amazement that Krumir is Jewish. He begins to dismiss Jews as less than human. Fabian is dissatisfied with Hitler's deeds and statements. Back on set, Fabian has Hitler recount his journey to the location. He asks Hitler what happened before the ball hit him in the woods, but Hitler has no recollection of it. Later that night, he comes out of the set, surrounded by thugs. They name him the reason for retaking Germany and slap him across the face. When Hitler opens his eyes, he is in a hospital in front of Bellini. At the same time, Fabian watches the film he recorded about the lads and football. He examines it closely and discovers Hitler has risen from where he was sleeping. Fabian is taken aback by what came before it. He rushes to the area and discovers a board with the historical location of the Führer bunker written on it. Fabian rushes to the hospital but is unable to locate Hitler. Bellini announces that he is on his way to the set. Fabian reveals that he is the genuine Adolf Hitler, but Bellini is skeptical. Fabian behaves insane and tries to express his theory in a frenzied manner. The guards attempt to apprehend him, but he flees. Fabian then arrives on set and points a gun at Hitler. When asked about his identity, Hitler says he never pretended to be someone else. Fabian claims that Hitler's propaganda is deceiving people, to which Hitler responds that voters elected a leader who publicly expressed his entire ideology in 1933. With his rifle, Fabian leads Hitler to the top of a structure. He seizes Hitler and proclaims him a monster. In response, Hitler says that ordinary people elected an extraordinary leader and entrusted the fate of the country to him. He argues that people choose him because they have similar beliefs in their hearts. Fabian, outraged, shoots Hitler, causing him to slide down the building and onto the street. Soon after, Fabian hears Hitler's voice, who says that no German will be able to get rid of him. And Hitler, who had just been hurled down, reappears just behind it. Just then, Bellini orders a cut in the studio, and everyone applauds for the shoot. It turned out to be a film shoot, with a random actor portraying the character of Fabian. Hitler then begs everyone to remember their friends who were unable to join them. Krumir is sobbing somewhere else, observing Fabian through a hole in the mental ward. After the film's success, Hitler and Bellini are in high demand for autographs and interviews. People on the street seem fond of Hitler and greet him with respect as they pass by a car. The end. Please subscribe to assist the channel, turn on notification and leave a like. Thank you for taking the time to watch. See you again soon.